This next question comes from the user DayVeeJay, who wants to know what my favorite PS1 game is. Well, let me tell you, I've been a little busy running the greatest country in the world. But when I do find time to unwind, I like to kick back with a little game called...
I saw a few weeks ago, Ubisoft released some daft NFT game in the year 2024 for some reason. I don't know, probably because they're a bunch of clowns who can't tell their asses from their elbows. I mean, an NFT game in 2024? Just why? I mean, I was never really clued in on all the blockchain and crypto shit, and even I know NFTs have pretty much gone the way of the dodo at this point. So yeah, that game's basically dead on arrival. I mean, it's got less going for it than Assassin's Creed Shadows, except for the fact that Ubisoft decided to resurrect their old mascot, poor old Rayman, to be the announcer in it or whatever, for no other reason than, I guess, to draw some modicum of interest to it. Oh, Rayman, look what you've been reduced to. Shilling NFT games for Ubisoft. Man, I'd have more respect if you were appearing in furry tentacle porn. Oh.
Look how they massacred my boy.
But seeing old Ray again did get me thinking back to the good old days and some of his previous outings, of which I did play quite a few. And yeah, I remember liking them just fine. So then I thought, might as well revisit some of them. And what better place to start than old Ray's very first adventure, which I never actually played. But that's okay, I'm sure it'll be easy enough. Right, well, let's jump in and find out. But before we do that, we're still trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Yeah, we're clawing our way there, slowly but surely. So if you enjoy my content and have yet to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it if you would do so. And with that out the way, let's get into it.
Welcome to hell.
So Rayman was developed by Ubi Pictures, better known these days as Ubisoft Montpellier, and published by Ubisoft in 1995. It was on PS1, Sega Saturn, MS-DOS, and Atari Jaguar. Remember that thing? I mean, I don't. How old do you think I am? But I've seen the AVGN video on it, and that's all I need to know about it, really. So we get started and get ourselves an intro movie with this cheerful chap to explain the world and story.
Hi, folks!
You alright, mate?
You wanna know what's going on?
Yeah, why not?
Let me tell you the story of Rayman!
Why aye, sounds good.
In Rayman's world, nature and people live together in peace. The great Protoon provides and maintains the harmony and balance in the world.
It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, it binds the galaxy together.
Sorry, folks. This apparently can't last.
What?
One fateful day, the evil Mr. Dark steals the great Protoon and defeats Matilla the Fairy as she tries to protect it. The Electoons, who used to gravitate around it, lose their natural stability and scatter all over the world. Troublesome, isn't it?
I'll see it.
And untidy, too. In this now unbalanced world, strange phenomena begin to occur. Freaks and hostile characters appear, capturing every Electoon they can find.
So there's the story. This Mr. Dark guy, yeah, real imaginative name there. That's like calling him Mr. Evil or Dr. Bad or some shit. Is nicked off with the Force thing or whatever it's meant to be, which then leads to the Electoon thing scattering and getting locked up in cages. And apparently, the only guy who can save the day is our hero, the... What even is he? The sentient eggplant thing with disembodied limbs and better hair than old Dirty Don himself, who now has to set out and free the Electoons and get the Force back and defeat Mr. Dark. And there you go. Hire these guys for Red Dead 3. We'll make ourselves a new save file, enter our initials. Yeah, it was 1995. They hadn't figured out how to give us more than 3 letters yet. And away we go. We start off in the Pink Plant Woods and see, oh, the first game in the series is actually a side-scroller. Well, that's not much of a surprise. I mean, 3D games were still kind of in their infancy at this point. There were a few 3D platformers around back then, like Alpha Waves, but while that may have been technically impressive for the time, visually speaking, not so much. So yeah, a 2D side-scroller will do just fine. And like most side-scrollers, it's simple enough. The name of the game is to just reach the end of the level, which are divided into several stages. And also, like most of these games, it's split into a few worlds with a bunch of levels in each. Along the way, you'll come across cages with the Electoon things in what you've got to smash to free them from. Although you don't actually have to progress through the majority of the game, but you do need to smash all of them before you can access the final world. There's 6 cages in each level, and you've also got these shiny pearl things called tings, which are just your traditional video game collectible. You get 100, you get a new life. Simple. You don't have many abilities to start. In fact, all you can really do is just walk, jump, duck and crawl. But as you continue, you'll meet up at various points with the fairy godmother or some shit who will then give you some new abilities. Like running, yeah, that's always useful, and using your disembodied fists to knock out enemies. Man, that's some reach you got there, Rayman. The Gypsy King ain't got shit on you. You can also hang from ledges, swing on these weird flying oath things, and use that sweet head of hair as helicopter blades, just like Bugs with his ears. Although naturally, you'll acquire some of these abilities later into the game, but there'll be bits where you'll need them in earlier levels, so to collect everything and reach the end of the game, you will find yourself returning to levels you've already beaten. And let's talk about Rayman's punch, cause it's something. See, since your fist isn't actually connected to your body, you can punch a lot further than normal, more so if you hold down the button to wind it up beforehand. And you can also find collectibles that make your punch quicker and even further. And what's more is, even if you miss your target, you can still hit them on the rebound when it comes back to you, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, like I said, this is simple enough. You're just going through these levels, punching out bad guys and finding cages to smash. Nothing to it. Hey, what? Whoa, Jesus Christ, man. Hey, what the fuck? What's happening?
Welcome to hell.
Oh yeah, did I say this game was gonna be easy? Oh sorry, what I meant to say was absolutely, blood-boilingly, gut-punchingly, ball-crushingly hard. Hard like donkey shit what's been out in the freezing sub-zero cold all fucking night. Seriously, Croc, Crash Bandicoot, they were fucking child's play compared to this shit. Oh, don't be fooled by the bright and colourful visuals and cute characters and shit. Nah, this game is pure evil that crawls right from Satan's arsehole to do nothing but inflict pain and misery upon the world. I'm not kidding when I say this is one of the hardest games I've ever played. And I've beaten FromSoft games. I've beaten all the Halos on fucking Legendary. This is worse. It's seriously insane how difficult this game gets. And what makes me say that? Where to start? Well, how about the fact that literally everything in this game has to be timed exactly right? Like, right down to the fucking millisecond. Seriously, every single movement has to be timed perfectly. Whether it's jumping to another platform or avoiding some obstacle or even just hitting an enemy. If your timing isn't absolutely on point, then at best, whatever it is you're trying to do isn't gonna work, and at worst, you're gonna get yourself hurt or killed. Like you'll have shit like moving platforms what you've got to jump to at the exact right moment in order to land on, and if you're off by a fucking cut hair, you'll miss and then end up in the water or landing on spikes and shit. And there'll also often be some other hazard what's moving around as well, so then you've got to take that shit into account too. And on top of that, not only does your timing have to be on fucking point, your reactions have to be as well. You've seriously got to have the reflexes of a fucking cat on speed to get through some of this shit. Like there'll be times where you'll just be going along and then some enemy or hazard will just appear out of thin air right in front of you and you've barely got a second to react and avoid it. And then you'll have bits where the only way to get through unscathed is to get killed and then memorize where all the shit is for when you go back through again. Which is easier said than done, since when you do get killed, which you will, a lot, unless you're some kind of fucking savant or something, you'll often have a lot of ground to make back up, since even though there are checkpoints, there can be pretty few and far between, and there's some parts where there's none at all, so you can end up getting sent back pretty far. I mean, Jesus, all I can say is thank fucking Christ for save states. Yeah, as you'll likely know if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, I'm playing on an emulator, but I've actually always been a bit resistant to using save states despite the obvious advantages they bring. Just cause, I guess, it can almost be considered a form of cheating, which I'm by no means above if you've seen some of my other videos. But whereas cheat codes or passwords are still part of the actual game, save states are a feature of the emulator instead. And when I do these reviews, I like to get the most authentic possible experience of the game, like I was playing on the actual console, which doesn't work if you're using save states. That's why you'll often hear me complain about the lack of checkpoints in certain games, Urban Chaos, despite the fact that I can easily get around that by using save states. But here, yeah, that's just not gonna work. I mean, I could play the game properly as if I were on console, and I'd probably beat it. Eventually. But if you want me to finish the game and get this video out within the next month, yeah, it's just not gonna happen. I mean, like with most of these games, when you lose all your lives, it's game over, but you've also got these continue things what let you start back at the beginning of the current section you're on with full health and 3 lives. But if you get game over again, you lose another of your continues, and if you lose all of them, then you get kicked back to the main menu and have to load the game, which naturally puts you back to where you last saved, which, depending on how often you save, can end up sending you back multiple levels that you've now got to replay. And I'm not kidding when I say there are bits where you can go through all your lives and continues in one go, so then you've got to load and go back to the start of the level, and it's just slow and tedious and makes the game even more irritating than it already is, especially if you already got past a super hard bit which you've now got no choice but to go through again. So yeah, if you're gonna play this on an emulator, then I 100% recommend you use save states, so you can save right before a super hard bit and then instantly jump back to it every time you inevitably fail and try again. Except for the times where you go to press load, but you're getting so angry and flustered that you press save instead, so then you save the game on exactly the point where you died, so then you've just got to keep playing from the last checkpoint and lose a bunch of progress for fuck's sake. But yeah, save states are a must here, and if you're playing on console, then just God help you. But we're not done yet. Oh no. We've barely even scratched the surface of just how teeth-pullingly, eye-gougingly, cock-bitingly annoying this nasty little prick of a game can be. I mean, when I say everything in this game has to be timed perfectly, I mean everything. Not just the big things like jumping between platforms or avoiding enemies and shit, but small shit too. Like in the early levels, you'll have these, I don't know what these things are meant to be, giant berries or big purple testicles or whatever, what you can knock down from their vines and then use them to float across water bits and reach other areas. But the thing is, they bounce, and to move them you've got to hit them with your fist. But as we've already seen, since Rayman's fist isn't actually connected to him and is essentially a projectile, when you go to hit something, you've got to take into account the time it takes for its fist to meet the target. Like when you're trying to hit these berry things, you've got to time it right, because if you miss, you could end up hitting it on the rebound and knocking the fucking thing the wrong fucking way. I'm not kidding. Even just trying to move these things around can be enough to make you want to throw the fucking console out the window. And what else have we got here? Well, the enemies are a bunch of annoying scumbags too. Like you've got these little walking bomb pieces of shit what are too small for you to punch most of the time, unless you manage to be at the right level since you can only punch straight out in front, so you usually just have to jump over them, but oh, they can still hit you when they want to. Then you've got this poncy looking fucker who appears to have a body like Rayman but with a bag of dog shit or whatever for a head, who's just constantly firing these weird hammer bullet things in your direction, and you can only hurt him when he's cleaning his gun, just for some reason. Then you've got this wanker, fucking noisy cricket or some shit. I hate this motherfucker. You can barely hit the prick because he either flies in the air or ducks under your fist, so you've got to try and get him before he's got the chance to, like when he's attacking. But of course he also attacks way faster than you, the bastard. And naturally, when you do take out an enemy, they come pretty much straight back when you move on, so that's something else you've got to keep in mind if you end up backtracking areas you've already been through. And beyond enemies and the general difficulty, let's take a closer look at some of the individual bits that make you want to stick your head in a deep fryer. Like this bit where first you've got to get this guy his loincloth back, and then he gives you a seed what lets you grow plants what you then use as platforms to climb up this bit. But as soon as you start climbing, the water starts to rise, so you've got to keep going, creating more platforms and climbing as fast as you can to keep yourself from drowning. And this is actually a lot harder than it sounds, since whereas for most of the game, despite how precise you've got to be with the platforming, you can go pretty much at your own pace. But here you're being forced to move fast, while still being just as precise, so it's really easy to make mistakes. And the water rises pretty fast, so it doesn't take long for it to catch you. And then when you finally do get to the top, just as you're about to touch the sign to exit the area, the Joker's put an extra life right back at the other side of the screen, just tempting you to try and go for it and get back in time before the water gets you. Fucking pricks. Then there's the part where, for a while at least, you can fly for longer by tapping X, which naturally leads to bits where you've got to carefully move yourself between rows of spikes and various other hazards, and all that's annoying enough on its own. But then you come to this bit, which is kind of the reverse of what we were just talking about, where now you've got to go down this hole or whatever, while also tapping X to keep yourself above the water. But then you've also got this big ass stone pushing you down so you can't escape, and then you've got enemies and shit to avoid as well. And the whole time you're getting pushed further and further towards the water until it eventually just gets you anywhere. And once again, it took me longer than I care to admit to figure out exactly what you're supposed to do here, since, in my defense, I wouldn't say it's immediately apparent. See, what you've got to do is use your helicopter head to cut the ropes to stop the rock from moving, which again is easier said than done since it takes a while to cut each rope, and you've got to be touching the exact right spot to do so. So then you're having to tap the button at the right rate to maintain a constant height. You tap it too slow, you go too low. You tap it too fast, you go too high. And again, you've got to do all this while avoiding the fucking enemies. And then on top of all that, you've got just barely enough time to do it. If you waste so much as a second, you're pretty much fucked. And then you've got this load of wank where you've got to try and jump between these fucking pencils without touching the points. And this is just fucking impossible. I mean, how the fuck do they expect you to do this shit? I mean, you're going down this slippery fucking slope and I guess you've got to jump at the exact right moment to get through. But no matter when I do, it doesn't work. You jump too soon, you hit the points. You wait too long, you hit the other ones, and then you just fall and die. You've got this rubber at the bottom, but that doesn't work because it doesn't bounce you far enough to make it through. So what the fuck are you supposed to do? This is bullshit. I hate this. I fucking hate this so fucking much. What absolute fucking wazzock came up with this shit? Seriously, fucking hard enough for you, you fucking cretin? I swear to fucking Christ, I'm gonna... Wait, what? What the fuck? I could just bounce through the whole time? I just had to bounce through the whole time. I just had to keep going, and it would just bounce me straight on through. Just... You. You are scum. Cowabunga. Now, based on everything I've said so far, you may get the impression that I hate this game, but as is the case with both Croc and Crash Bandicoot, that's not actually true. Because like with those games, despite the insane difficulty level, it's actually pretty good. It doesn't do anything particularly original, it is just a pretty bog standard side-scroller and platformer, but like I say with a lot of these games, what it does well. The controls and movement are pretty good, although I'd imagine you should be hard-pressed to fuck up the controls in a side-scroller, but who knows. All I know is that the controls here are pretty precise, which they want to be considering how precise you've got to be with the amount of jumping and gliding and shit you're doing in this game. I mean, you've already got to time all your shit perfectly, just imagine if you had the controls working against you as well, then it would just be completely intolerable. But no, like I say, the controls are decent enough, although they're not perfect. I did have one problem with them. See, I found that when you jump, if you press jump again straight after landing, Rayman may not respond, and if you're trying to jump forward, like over a gap, you can instead end up just walking straight into it. So after you land, you've got to leave like a split second before you jump again, and this comes up pretty regularly, because there's loads of times where you'll be jumping between platforms that either disappear or drop like half a second after you land on them, so you've got to jump to the next one as quick as possible. But if you press the button slightly too quickly, then you just walk over the edge. And despite how challenging it gets at times, which is to say most of the fucking time, I will say that the game never seemed to get repetitive. There are a decent variety of challenges to overcome, although it does feel a little random sometimes. Like something unique will suddenly come out of nowhere, and then you get past it and it's just back to the regular gameplay, and you're just like, okay, that was a thing. Whatever. I also like the fact that, while not having multiple paths or anything like that, the levels are at least not completely linear. Like, they don't just go from left to right, they go in all directions. And there are lots of hidden nooks and crannies to find, so that encourages you not to just rush straight through, and to take the time to explore a little. But of course, there's always got to be a flip side to the coin, since cause the levels do get pretty complicated as you get further in, it can be annoying finding your way through or finding all the cages, and it can get pretty confusing. There's seriously cages that I've still got no idea how to get to, which isn't helped by the fact that things like cages and shit will just appear, but only when you touch the exact right spot. There's also bonus levels. See, several times on your quest you'll come across, I don't know, Top Hat Bloke or whoever he's meant to be. You pay him some of your tings and he'll send you to the bonus level, where you've just got to collect all the tings within the time limit. Which, in keeping with the rest of the game, is way easier said than done, considering the time limit's about as tight as a nun's clunge. You've barely got enough time to make it through, to the point where if you make a single mistake, no matter how minor, even if it costs you less than a second, you might as well just quit and try again, cause you're probably not gonna make it. But when you finally do, you get another life, so I guess it's worth it. And we of course can't forget about the bosses, of which there are several, most of which appear at the end of each world. And like just about everything else in this game, yeah, they're hard as balls. Now, to tell you the truth, the first few are pretty simple. You just have to avoid their attacks and hit them before they hit you. But the further you get, the more complex they become, to the point where it's not always clear how you're meant to beat them. Like, you've got this dickhead who you can't hurt directly, so you have to jump and hit this ball rock thing to make it come down and hit him. And then you've got this arsehole, fucking Scorpion King motherfucker, who makes the platforms you're standing on fall until you've got nowhere left to stand and you just fall in the lava and die. And it took me a while to realise that you've got to hit him in the right place to knock him back so you'll have more room to stand on. But you've got to be quick about it, because if you take too long he'll just come forward again and knock you off the platform and kill you. And on top of that, like everywhere else, you've got to have lightning fast reflexes to avoid all the shit they throw at you, and a good memory to remember all their patterns and shit for when you inevitably die and have to try again. But when you do finally manage to beat the fuckers, you get to see Rayman do a little dance. So yeah, that's cool. I guess that's meant to be our reward for winning. The graphics are pretty decent for the time. Obviously they're not 3D graphics, but that doesn't hurt the game at all, since the art style's bright and colourful, and visually the levels are really detailed and distinctive. Of course that's all just a veneer for the malevolence lurking beneath, there to lull you into a false sense of security, like a sweet and sultry siren luring you to your doom. But in all seriousness, yeah, I think the game looks really good. There's not much point talking about voice acting, since there's almost none in it, apart from Top Hat Guy at the start. But what little there is fine enough. It's way better than what I've heard from a lot of other games from the time. I really like the soundtrack. It's got a nice whimsical and at times kind of psychedelic sound to it that goes well with the art style and gameplay. Although again, it's all just part of the illusion designed to mask the game's true nature and draw you in, all while the jaws of the Venus flytrap are just waiting to snap shut on your sorry ass. I also like the level of imagination and creativity that went into some of the worlds. Like, it goes beyond just the regular environments you see a lot in these sorts of games. You know, how they all have the same few biomes, like the temperate green world, the ice world, the lava world, the desert world, etc. But here, in addition to some of those, you've also got purely imaginative worlds, like the music-themed world, where everything's musical instruments and notes and shit. And then you've got the art-themed world, where it's all paints and pens and pencils and whatnot. And I just wish more games would go all out when coming up with more unique and creative worlds. Or maybe they did and I just never played them, so yeah, who knows? Well, somebody probably does, but it's not me, so Yeah. But anyway, after making it through the majority of the game, you'll eventually find yourself unable to go any further until you've smashed all the cages. So now it's time to go back and find all the ones you missed, which I of course did. Yep, I went right back through the whole entire game, traversed all of this bullshit again and found every single cage on my own with nothing but my own mettle and perseverance. No help, no cheats and no passwords. And anyone who alleges otherwise can expect to hear from my lawyers. But anyway, once you've smashed all the cages, you can then access the final world. Ooh, Candy Chateau.
Candy? Special candy?
And if you thought shit was crazy enough already, ho, get ready, cause they saved the best for last! And by best, I of course mean the worst, just in case you didn't pick up on my clever sarcasm there. But yeah, they drop you in it pretty much right out of the gate, since as soon as you start the level, you're immediately going down these slippery slopes and have to clear all these drops, which again require you to have the reflexes of, I don't know, that droid from Rogue One or something. But that's not all, because not only do you have to make it to the other side, you've also got to time your jumps right in order to land in the right place. Because if you don't, it can fuck up your momentum and you'll slow down and won't be able to clear the next fucking jump. Yeah, I was minutes away from giving myself an aortic aneurysm at this fucking bit. But we're still not out the woods, cause then that arsehole Mr. Dark turns up and conjures this evil doppelganger what you've got to keep away from, cause if he touches you once, you're dead. Which, as I've said a few times throughout this video, is a lot easier said than done, since he's on you like flies on shit for pretty much the whole thing. And the platforming gets pretty intricate here, and again, you're forced to move as fast as you can, so it's really easy to make a mistake, and all it takes is one minor fuck up for him to catch you, and that's it! And the cheeky fuckers even put in bits where you get trapped and you've got to try and get past him. Not that easy, what with the wanker mimicking your every move. I swear to Christ, if I hear that fucking sound one more time, I'm gonna stick a fucking screwdriver in my fucking ear. You know, I read somewhere that the game wasn't actually meant to be this hard, and the developers didn't realise how ball-bustingly difficult it was because they didn't playtest it that much. And all I've got to say to that is... bullshit! Yeah, I don't buy that shit for a microsecond. Just from the way that things are set up, some of the challenges you come across, especially in the second half, there's just no way they didn't know exactly what they were doing. And if that were true, then the game would be a lot more inconsistent in how hard it is. Like some bits would be insanely hard and others would be incredibly easy. But no, from the second half onwards, hell not even that, it's consistently hard as balls. Now I'm not saying that it's not true, I'm just saying that I personally don't believe it, and that's not the same thing. I mean, how can you when you come to a bit like this where Mr. Wank casts a spell on you that actually reverses the controls? So now pressing left makes you go right and pressing right makes you go left. I mean, come on. That's approaching fucking Psycho Mantis levels of bullshit. There's just no way you can put that in and then claim, oh, I didn't know the game was hard. No fucking way. So yeah, now we've got that shit to deal with. And we're still not done, because then he comes back and casts another spell, so now you can't stop running. Yeah, didn't know how hard it was, my arse. And then after you've made it past all that, it's on to the final showdown. And as you might expect, yeah, it's an annoying load of wank. Since first of all, you can't even hit the prick because he's nicked your magic fist, so you can't hurt him. And then he's sending shit at you what's hard to avoid, especially with him conjuring pillars of fire to keep you from moving around too much. And then once you survive that shit for long enough, two of the little Electoon things appear and get your fist thing for you. Yeah, thanks a lot, you little pair of fuckballs. You think you could have gotten that shit to me sooner? So now you can hit the guy, and from there on, the fight's simple enough. Basically, he just turns into amalgams of all the previous bosses, and you've just got to avoid his attacks and hit him back. But just cause it's simple doesn't mean it's not hard and annoying as fuck, cause oh, it most certainly is. You still need to be either a wizard or hopped up on Red Bull and Ritalin to make it through without a scratch. But with enough perseverance, you finally beat the fucker. Rayman cheers and does his little dance, and there you go, you saved the world, I guess. Yeah, after literally fighting your way through all this shit, this is the end you get. Just a brief cutscene where the game pretty much says, yeah, you won. Good for you. Now fuck off. And yeah, There you go. So that was Rayman on PS1, and in conclusion, just Jesus fucking Christ. You know, I did have people tell me this was harder than Crash Bandicoot, and I believed them, but never for a second did I imagine it would be this much fucking harder. I mean, there's a real good reason why you can look up just about any list of the hardest PS1 games and you'll see this somewhere. And you know, maybe they didn't realise how hard it was, although personally I find that pretty hard to believe based on some of the individual challenges, particularly later into the game. And it is kind of a shame cause beyond the just abominable difficulty level, it is a pretty good game, all things considered. It's well made, and it is fun when it's not making you want to tear out your own eyes and put them in a smoothie maker. It looks good. I love the art style and soundtrack and the creativity that went into a lot of the worlds and also a lot of the challenges, since despite how frustrating they can be, I will say the game never gets repetitive, so that's something. But like I say, it is a shame since I wouldn't be surprised if the difficulty does drive off a lot of people before they get very far into it. I mean, if I wasn't playing it for a video, I doubt I would have lasted long before I said fuck this shit. I don't even know if I can really recommend it. Like if you're just a casual retro gamer looking for a fun blast from the past, this may not be the one for you. But if you're some kind of super masochist with a pain tolerance that puts fucking Mick Foley to shame, then yeah, give it a go. But anyway, as I said at the start, I did play some of the other Raymans back in the day, so I thought, like I did with Spyro and Crash Bandicoot, I'd take a look at some of those too. So next up, we're going to be taking a look at Rayman 2, The Great Escape, which I can only assume is about our cute little eggplant thing guy escaping from a German POW camp. So yeah, should be interesting if nothing else.
But when I do find time to unwind, I like to kick back with a little game called Crash Bandicoot. Now, I know what you're thinking, Mr. President. That's a kid's game. Well, let me tell you something. I've got a soft spot for that little orange Bandicoot. He's got spunk, he's got attitude, and he's got a killer spin move. Plus, he's got a great head of hair just like me. But let's be real, I don't have time to play games. I've got a country to run. And let me tell you, running this country is no game. It's a 24/7 job. But if I did have time to play games, I'd be the best damn Crash Bandicoot player you've ever seen. I'd be spinning and jumping my way to victory, just like I've been doing in the White House. And so, DayVeeJay, there you have it. My favorite PS1 game is Crash Bandicoot. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to get back to making America great again.
Ugh. Why do I do this to myself? Well, I did it. I beat Rayman, one of the hardest games on PS1, although I'm not sure if I can truly say that considering I didn't beat it properly, the way God intended, but who cares? I did it, and I'm still alive. I may have sacrificed another part of my rapidly dwindling sanity and have a 1,000-yard stare like I just went through the entire Battle of the Somme in a single day, but I did it, and I'm alive, so yeah. That's got to count for something, right? But anyway, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then leave a like. If you didn't, then tell me to go fuck myself. We're still trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so if you enjoy my content and have yet to subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it if you would do so. And as always, thank you so much to everyone who already has. And if you wish to support the channel further, then consider donating to my Patreon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
This next question comes from the user DayVeeJay, who asks, would you get freaky with Crash's girlfriend, Tawna? Well, DayVeeJay, let me tell you, I've always had a thing for Bandicoot babes, especially the ones with a little extra fur. But, you know, I'm a busy man running the country and all that. I don't have time to be chasing after some video game vixen. Besides, I've got Melania, and let me tell you, she's a real firecracker. She's got more spark than a 4th of July celebration in Texas, so no, I wouldn't get freaky with Tawna. But hey, if she wants to join me for a round of golf at Mar-a-Lago, she's more than welcome. Just keep those furry paws off my golf balls, all right?